Hey guys, this is Andrea Valdez, and you're listening to the 3D Muscle Journey podcast. Before we dive into today's episode, just wanted to let everyone know that we recently released our second case study Q&A video course in our online bodybuilding education platform called the 3DMJ Vault. You can enroll for free to get immediate access to over 15 videos about gaining strength, losing fat, recovering from diets, and much more. The latest collection of case study Q&A videos is all about training and nutrition for hypertrophy, and you can check it out at 3dmjvault.com. Again, that's 3dmjvault.com. Thanks for listening, guys, and enjoy the show. Today I'm talking to Jeff Alberts and Alberto Nunez about how to handle the holidays as a bodybuilder. This is by no means a simple instructional episode about what you should do and how much you should eat. This is actually a much more complex topic than most people might think. You have to consider the time of year, when you're competing again, your mental state, your relationship with food, your willpower and decision-making skills, your identity as an athlete, your family's traditions, and a whole lot more than we could ever cover within one single episode, especially since we don't personally know everyone's individual situation. But all that said, I think we did a pretty great job covering a lot of those topics and offering our insight in the way we help our athletes deal with this time of year and how we personally plan to handle the holidays as competitors ourselves here at the end of 2017. So this is definitely not just for people who are dieting, and it's definitely not just about nutrition. It's a pretty deep and fun conversation I got to have with the guys, and I really hope you all get something out of it. As always, if you have any feedback or comments on this particular episode, head over to 3dmusclejourney.com or to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/team3dmj and leave us some insights over there. Leave us some ideas, some future topics for episodes. Let us know what you like, all that good stuff. And we would really appreciate it. So please enjoy our episode. Let's get into it. This is Holiday Bodybuilding with Alberto Nunez and Jeff Alberts. So as we're talking, it is a week from Thanksgiving. So unfortunately, when this comes out, Thanksgiving will have already happened by a few days, but we're going to try to help everybody deal with the rest of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not just 2 days. That's the thing. It's like usually the holidays for most people, it's like, I have a Friendsgiving this weekend.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So it's a collection of days that get you.
Because it's not just Thursday. It's the whole weekend. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
The leftovers and then all the good stuff people bring to work.
And travel while you're on the road.
Yeah.
And like you said, Friendsgivings. What else happens?
All the good food comes out during this time of the year. It's like you
all
can't go to Walmart without 8 different pumpkin things. Yeah, it's hectic.
It's too many pumpkins, damn it.
Too many things. And I just finished a lot of the shows actually wrap up around this time of the year. So I think for those people, it's for some people can be difficult too, because it's like, you're like, I get to be dropped off into the holidays. And you're like, oh, hold up. I get to be dropped off into the holidays. That might be an issue. So, yeah, I think almost every physique athlete has some sort of strategy, or at least tries to start thinking about how we approach it this go around.
Yeah. Yeah, and it depends, I guess. Of course, everything depends on everything. But, there's off-season, legit not competing for 2-3 years. There's off-season, getting ready to prep in January. There's like you, off-season, but just got off stage, so what the hell do I do?
I'm kind of off-season now and going to start back up in January.
Yeah. So there's a lot of situational shit that goes along with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think one thing all situations kind of have in common is you just don't want things to get out of hand, Yeah. I think that's the biggest fear, whether you're gaining, or you're dieting maybe for some reason. I don't know. I don't know how you found the show in December. I don't know who puts on the show in December, but I think everyone to some extent wants to at least focus on. I hate using that phrase, but like damage control, right?
Yeah. But it's also, I think, I've been in places where I've been in all those places at some point.
Yeah.
But it's weird how when you actually give like zero fucks about damaging, you really are in a place where you probably won't do much damage, and vice versa. You're like, oh my god, I don't want to do it, and then you do it, and it screws up everything, and you feel bad, and there's like shame associated with it, and like this downward spiral.
Mm. So, you know what I do want to start with is probably the one thing you don't want to do, and I think a lot of folks fall for this trap, and that's the dieting, so that they can have a little bit of a buffer for these holidays. So they're like, ooh, you know, we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of the holiday season. I think I'm going to start a diet so that I'm a little bit more resistant to the damage that might happen. And I think sometimes that sets people up for, I think you're putting too much value on what, or you're overcomplicating things by adding that to that. And those are the people that I think end up doing not so well after it's all said and done.
Right.
Just like, that sounds like the people that say, oh, I'm going on a 7-day cruise, so I'm going to diet so I can gain 20 pounds.
Yes.
and they come back 30 pounds heavier.
And they hate all the pictures while they were there.
Yeah.
No.
Except the first 2 days. They look good the first 2 days. And then...
They had that one night of drinking, and it was all downhill from there.
That's it.
Yeah. So let's, because that's a good point, right? And that kind of is the person that obviously cares about their physique, but they're not prepping for sure, right? So this is someone that has agency, because the almost easy way to talk about this, I'm sure we'll get there, with preppers is like, you don't have much choice. So we'll talk about that later, but you don't. But when you do have the option of handling it how you would like, is when people do dumb shit like that, or like set themselves up worse off than they could have and stuff like that. So when you do have decision-making leeway, like you said, Bert, that would probably be not a great way to handle it. And it almost puts it on a psychological pedestal, right? Like if you, yes. Like if you're like, oh my God, it's going to be so good, and there's going to be food, and then the grandma makes this thing, and the mama makes this thing, and then we're all going to get together, and I'm going to see my friends, we're going to go out, and then after that, there's this pizza in my hometown that I never get. And so if you do that kind of shit, I think that's the root of it all, right? Is if you associate so many good feelings and things with foods, like that might be problem number one.
Yeah. Absolutely. Like you said, putting it on a pedestal, I think that is a huge mistake. And I think most folks that are newer to this will kind of do that. There's almost no way around that. You kind of have to go through that phase, right? But then you're taking it a step further if you're going to diet in order to give you some wiggle room to pig out. I think that one never ends well. No.
You're almost justifying the behavior on that day of like really just like you're setting yourself up just to really binge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you have this weird feeling like I earned it.
And exactly. You're justifying it. Like, oh yeah, I lost 5 pounds for this. I can eat, 2 turkeys, 2 pies.
Yeah.
Well, and the big one is you end up showing up all deprived.
Yeah, like so physiologically you're making it more difficult.
Yeah. When you're well fed, you're like, it's tasty, but I mean, I think that's when I have found that I've gained the least amount of holiday weight. It's when I'm like deep into an off season. I'm always kind of eating. Hunger levels are pretty balanced at that point. And you're kind of like stepping away from that. Like you might have been in that situation, and then you're like, I'm going to start this cut 3 weeks ahead. And like you run past grandma to run straight to the pumpkin pie. That's no good.
And that's just not nice. Your poor grandma made all that shit for you. You don't even care. That's a good point, though. Is not only if you put it on the pedestal, is it psychologically like you've built it up to be this big celebration, like this big thing. Which, after a prep, that's common, and it's that might be earned more so than like you said, Jeff, I lost 5 pounds, so I should eat at least 5 pounds per sitting. That just doesn't make any sense.
So first things first, I guess, don't diet. for the holidays. It's like it's probably the worst. It's worse than that person that diets for the cruise, to be honest. So don't do that. Let's get that one out the way. Don't do that.
So not just like a 3 to 5 week thing, but then there's the acute ones that are like, because Thanksgiving's tomorrow, I'm going to fast on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't think fast. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong. Like, I'm going to shave a couple hundred calories off today.
Right, that's different.
Nothing wrong with that, because you're not going to really feel that too much. But yeah, if you're like, I'm not going to eat today.
Right.
Yeah.
Or do like an extreme,
you can eat later.
Yeah. Or do an extreme, even if, of course they're going to eat something, but yeah, I guess it's all degrees of it. Like if you know, all right, dinner's served at 6. Normally I like my lunch around like 2 or 3, but I'm going to maybe skip that just so that I can. Like that's not too huge a deal.
Nah.
Yeah.
Unless you are dieting. I guess we should say that too. Like if I'm already contest prep cutting, or like I'm mid diet, I'm pretty hungry almost 24/7. Skipping a meal is almost never gonna help you.
Yeah. So you're dieting for something serious for some reason, like maybe it's not a show, maybe it's a photo shoot. You have something coming up. Some
people's preps start in December.
Yeah. No, you are right. You are right.
Like for Absolutely. What is it, like maybe a June show when they just have a lot to lose or something.
Yeah, so let's kind of go over that one, because the guy or gal that is like dieting for the holidays, we don't even want to talk to you. Why are you doing that? But there are folks that say they have a March show, right? So you're probably dieting right now. So how would we approach that is the question, right?
Right. So
what can we do?
We would assume first off though that they're pretty early in their prep. So and I think we have done a pretty good job talking about how we kind of do these preventative things, right? So if we started dieting someone end of November or whatever, and Christmas is coming up, maybe we just diet them hard until Christmas and their diet break lays within Christmas week or something. So we can do things like that if you know far enough away.
Yeah, or just know that progress is going to be a bit slower those months, you know, and you kind of plan for that, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think if you're going to be dieting through the holidays, you kind of don't expect perfection over the course of those months, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of goes for just not outside of the holidays. Like I think for a lot of preps, you kind of look at what you might be kind of dealing with outside of the prep, and you just kind of know that that's this, that's that. You know, this is when I have finals or something like that, and we might have to step off the gas some. So yeah, I think if you know ahead of time, you do your best. Don't expect perfection. But I guess for that person, they obviously want to break bread with their family, and they don't want their prep to be too big of a distraction. So now, how do we navigate through those days is probably the next question. Specifically, say days like Thanksgiving and Christmas. What do we do? What have you guys?
There's a few things we could do. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah. I mean, I just gave some instruction for a couple of my guys and gals is that, and they're prepping. Like there's, a couple options I gave them was like one weekend, because typically their particular refeeds are on the weekends. We could just shift them. We'll say, okay, let's put some refeeds. We'll just say, okay, let's just have one refeed on Thanksgiving. Give you some good enough numbers so you can enjoy some food. And maybe we just, okay, now we're going to roll low days through the weekend. So we kind of move to that route. Another route would be, okay, or basically maybe create a little bit of a slight buffer a day ahead, allocate your calories just for Thanksgiving dinner, and basically kind of just move your way on after that, and just stick with your normal refeeding schedule after that. And like Alberto was saying, it's like, a week goes by after that. If you're back on your game, things tend to have a way to kind of level themselves back out and progress keeps rolling. So if you plan ahead, you have time. Just depends on what your choices are. You have a lot of options that you can be either aggressive or conservative with these things.
Right. Good points. And then planning for that through that day, right? Like we talked about it, probably if you're in a dieting phase, wouldn't be super smart to fast all day until your turkey dinner. You know, if you're, because again, we've talked about it a little bit. There are physiological things that happen when you take a starved body and then introduce some shit to it. There's like you said, Bert, there's like this ravenous, can't really stop kind of thing. And
things you can do too is like if you're like, let's say you're just kind of just saving for that meal, you can like eat protein and fat only, leave like kind of save your carbs, just enough to keep the edge off. And you're only talking a few hours. It's not like, you know, you get up in the morning at 9 or 10, you have a light breakfast, and by 3 or 4, you're not going to be like ravenous.
Yeah, well,
So we're only talking a small window here.
Yeah. There's people, though, if you give them, like, don't even track that one day. And some people are like, okay, I'm just going to freely eat. And some people, if you give them one day, no tracking, they're like, between midnight and midnight, I'm just going to see what I can do and see what I can, you know. So, I mean, we hope they're not in that state, but it can, it's just your outlook on it. And I think, and Jeff does a good job, or hopefully we all do, but like, when Jeff says it, though, it's also as a coach. It's like, this isn't a big deal. This is just a day. It's not, you know, he's not being like, okay, this one meal is going to be.
Well, yeah, it's not like, okay, you have this one meal. This is it.
Yeah.
And set them up, so they're like, oh, shit, I'm going to eat whatever I want now.
Yeah.
But try to, you know, give them the big picture here. Yeah, it's like, let's not eat like, you know, like you haven't eaten a week, you know, but enjoy some turkey, enjoy a good meal, you know, and again, if you're not going crazy, then you'll be fine.
Right. And then there's go ahead.
I was going to say, since I started bodybuilding, this will be my 32nd turkey dinner, you know, and I'm fine, you know, I'm still progressing. So it's not like, you know, even if it's your first time doing this and you lose your shit, you're going to learn from it.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and it's not like you're competing on Black Friday, so it sucks if you do lose your shit, but it's, like you said, it's not gonna, big picture, we're gonna be okay.
Like the things we're talking about now, we're giving some ways you can handle this, but let's say you're, okay, I'm gonna do what they're saying, and you do it, and you still screw up, you'll learn from it, and you'll get better over time.
Right.
But I think if you go in it just with so much fear, like you're just so fearful, you're gonna put way too much pressure on yourself.
Agreed. That's a good point. And then tactically, you mentioned too the whole way that you can just manipulate the food choices. Like you said, if maybe right before dinner you need to drink a whole damn whey shake just to help stave off the hunger, or you get tactically, right, you're like, okay, I want a whole lot of turkey and a whole lot of vegetables my first plate, and then we'll see. What else would be ways to just tactically arrange your food to help out with that?
One thing I kind of like to do on the day of, and I think this is where a lot of those like turkey 5Ks came from, you know. What? It's like, I'll go, you know, the 5K races, not that I'm doing one of those. But
the turkey trot.
You know, yeah. You know, if you get out, not everyone runs. People just get out there and walk, and I think, you know, that helps. I feel so. Maybe I'll train with a little bit more volume. You know, before that, maybe have a very challenging day, the day of, and maybe the days after. And I think, you know, you start to look at the feeling you do on turkey days, like, this is going to help me out with the next few training sessions. So I try to, you know, put a positive spin in that. Is it, you know, that my training itself, which I love to do, you know, creates a little buffer, and then the days afterwards are going to be affected in a positive way by that pumpkin pie. So I think looking at it from that perspective, I mean, coming off of prep, that was basically my mindset. It wasn't necessarily just the food, but it was, shoot, I'm going to be able to do all those cool things with my body that I'm used to doing that I kind of had to, you know, put away these last few weeks. So training the day of, or maybe early on, not a bad thing. I think I've had a lot of success with that, you know, and I think it also ties me into my goals to kind of do that thing, you know, before actually getting to the event. It's like a little friendly reminder that, hey, you know, you have these goals and enjoy yourself, but remember that you still want to do this stuff and you want to do it well. So that's one thing. I think training the day of, not a bad idea. Or maybe just, I don't know, go on a 5K run walk with your family. I think, spread the awareness as well.
I actually did that last year. Actually, I did the turkey trot, not trot, we walked the last 2 years. It's kind of starting like a little tradition now. Every morning we get it, because here in Stockton they do the race, but they also they also have the walk, so we walk. And I actually did, when we got back, I actually trained, like Berta was saying. I trained, and then we had our dinner after that. So that's a good point. And even if you do, let's say, eat a little bit too much, then like you said, like your next couple of training sessions should be pretty on point,
Yeah.
That pumpkin pump.
That's why they made that word that way. It was for us.
That's something I wouldn't have thought, though. Like a couple of years ago, if someone said, "Hey Jeff, go train on Thanksgiving," you're nuts. Like training on a holiday. But I actually enjoyed that last year.
I always like training on holidays, because also like you're not working. There aren't like time obligations typically, so like you can have fun, and then you can, because a lot of times, do y'all have like phone problems when you're training? Because like I keep my training on my phone, but like if there's like dings and email, I'm just like, shit, I gotta get through this session. But like on Christmas, it don't matter. Thanksgiving, it don't matter. It's my day to do whatever I want.
Well, vacations, like I get some of the best training sessions for that reason. It's because you remove yourself from all your stress, and it's like, so what do I like to do with myself to feel good? Oh, that's right, I train. So it's to me, like if I think of like a really good day, it usually involves training in some way. So yeah, to me, it makes the day merrier.
And you slept in, you can, you can sleep in to get your training. And then Friday's the best training day. Also, you're probably going to be, I don't know if you are, but a lot of Americans like to shop their asses off for like 36 hours immediately after.
Oh,
so that's good.
Black Friday?
Yeah.
So you need energy to get to the laptop you want.
Focus on the prize, all the stores open at like on Thanksgiving night. I've been getting this stuff in the emails. It's not even a holiday anymore. Anyways. Yeah, so that might be something. You could just
go stand in line with your turkey leg. That's what you do.
Well, that's the thing is the stores are open all night. You could go walk around, even if you live in a cold area. You could walk all night after your pumpkin. Okay, more strategies. So, day of, like we mentioned, higher protein might be something to keep you, if you're trying not to go crazy. Like we said, being depleted would not be good. So you could do the opposite. Arriving to this crazy dinner, kind of not hungry at all, can be a good thing.
Yeah. And protein does that. Like in regards to, when you look at, fat, carbs, and protein's probably the one thing that, if I have a big whey shake, like I'm pretty much not able to eat for the next hour or two, typically. So having protein in whichever form, I think, kind of helps get you through the day, and you will arrive to the holiday meal with a good amount of food left over.
Yeah, well, and that's like a personal thing. Like when I was, like we say, the orthorexic, when I did not want, when I wanted to keep my girlish figure on Black Friday, and not just that, like on friends' birthdays, when I'd go out at all, there was a good 3 or 4 years of my life where I would eat like pork rinds or jerky and some carrots and like stuff as I'm walking out the door. If we were going to an event, so that when I was there, I wasn't already hungry, or so that I had just eaten something that I knew was like high protein, low carb, or something like that. That for years, not just like a holiday thing, but just a way to like attend a birthday party without eating all the things, or a Super Bowl party, or whatever. You can also make your own stuff, right? Like if you're prepping,
you can influence influence it and
bring
have some options there that they're a little bit more reasonable and I guess when it comes to navigating yourself through the meal, one thing and this kind of goes back to like my bro clean eating days. It's like, so how do I handle this? Because I'm not going to lie to myself. I want to eat a lot of the things that are present. I would kind of sift through the stuff that I knew I couldn't have year round. So, for example, like biscuits, it's like they're all the time. But like that one thing my mom makes, and she's like, I'm only gonna make for Thanksgiving. You're not gonna see it again. Like I'm gonna go for that. Or yeah, the things that are very novel and are specific to that day that I don't have a chance to have too frequently. That's when I do pick things that are calorically a bit more robust. I tend to go for those as opposed to everyday tasty things like the Oreos that might be there and stuff like that.
Good point.
You mean you're not going to pound down like 10 rolls that are sitting there on the table?
Dude, I like the rolls. B makes turkey sandwiches with his rolls. He doesn't even need to, like, he puts it in a roll. He doesn't care.
Well, see, if it's the breast and it's a roll, it's low. There you go. The calories are pretty manageable there, you know?
Like, I'm just saying he does the opposite. He's not the opposite of trying. No. Well, and I guess we should talk about what we're going to do these holidays.
Yeah.
Can we do that? Because we're in different places.
Yeah, yeah. And how I think based on where we're at and what we're prone to, I think there'll be someone who can relate to that. And because, yeah, like you mentioned a few times, everyone's a little bit different, not just in regards to their situation. And we all kind of have different situations. We actually have pretty different situations. And you look at the whole round table here. And then also we have, we just tick a little differently as well. So yeah, start with you, Andrea. You are like deep off season. You are all about getting strong, and that's priority number one is performance more than anything else right now.
Yeah, I could say this Thanksgiving and the last Thanksgiving, don't care at all. And it's like the first time, I couldn't say that from probably 2009 to 2015-ish. But now I don't think anything of it at all. My family does the turkeys usually like midday. Like typically I'll eat dinner between like 8 and 11 p.m. But the turkeys usually for both sides of my family happens somewhere between like 2 and 6ish. So it's not like it's the last thing I eat before bed. And because of that, I really don't care. Because as y'all know, and I think I've talked about it before, the only thing I care about is if I can train well the next day. And I couldn't eat all that crap at like 10 p.m. But if I eat it at like 2 or 3 or whatever, I really don't care. So, because you can't unlearn anything that you know before. Like, I know what protein is. I know what carb. Like, I get that. So I always, I eat normally until I get there. I don't think about it at all. When I'm there, I inherently, again, without thinking about it, get a shit ton of white turkey. Anything that's colored vegetable, usually that I like. And that could be soaked in whatever sauce and butter because it's once a year and I don't really care. And it could be, and I usually eat at least a couple desserts within an hour or two after that. So I eat good. I don't know. I eat good. I don't really care. Whereas I remember there were times in that when I was dieting, and there were times when I would have this one meal this one day because it was this occasion, and I would blow that out of proportion. And now me like not caring isn't as bad as when I used to super care but have that one meal that was all I could do for a month, So me not caring is probably, if most days right now, because I train twice a day, I'll have somewhere between like 22 and say like 2,600 calories most days. But I would estimate most holidays the last couple of years, I'll probably have a good like 4,000 calories, and doesn't bother me none. The next day I wake up not as, I usually wake up pretty dry, but I feel a little squishy, and I train well the next day, and I don't care.
Yep.
So that's it.
And you're a couple days go by and you're fine, right?
Yeah.
Everything kind of goes back to
honestly,
normal.
the next day I'm fine. I might like within, the next day, I'm like, I'll wake up and be, because you just kind of know this shit at some point. You wake up and you're like, that's because of yesterday. And then I train well. And then the next day, so if it's Thursday, by Saturday, I don't know anything happened. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I might be, honestly, I'll probably undereat the next day. Not on purpose, just because I know
Just
I'm
'cause
still
you're not
super
hungry,
full.
right?
Yeah. I'll undereat
yeah.
a little the next day, but it's not like it's hindering anything because there's plenty saved. And I'll probably use the bathroom a little more than usual. And by Saturday, or within 48 hours, it's like nothing happened. And again, none of that, I'm only talking in a lot of detail because we're on a podcast and we're asking each other, but all of that goes without thinking about it at all at this point.
I bet.
And it used to be very carefully planned. There's been multiple Thanksgivings where I maybe ate 100 calories more than I was supposed to according to my macros. And then there's some Thanksgivings, like I said, where it's like, okay, because you're dieting through all of December, you better go. And I make myself sick. So I've done all those ones, but now I just don't care because performance first.
And it's funny, that's probably the one that, like, having that attitude is probably made the holidays much more enjoyable and perhaps a bit more about what they're supposed to be, which is like chill out time.
I used to be stressed out.
And the calories probably are at a more reasonable place, and you don't necessarily enjoy them any less.
Yeah. It's easy now.
Crazy how that works, right?
But I'm again, by no means like, I figured it out because, like, hey. I'm sure later on, next time I prep, I'll screw up some Thanksgiving for, I don't know, or some event, I'll screw up, but I know I have before. But now it's, like I said, I care less, so I know nothing bad is going to happen because I really don't care.
It's easy when your leptin levels are high, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And when like once a week I do, or I still go out to dinner and eat whatever and don't care about once a week. But like I said, I do super care about my training. So my dinner is almost the same every night, and it's pretty light compared to, I train early in the day, so there's a way more food during the day than there is at night most of the time. So that's it. Next.
How about you, Jeff? Because you're kind of in a sensitive area in a way. It's
that's
like,
right.
you are kind of cruising now, but you don't want to, gain too much by the time you press the restart button.
No.
Talk about your sit,
Trying to keep my body intact here. So, I plan on prepping again in January, so I kind of go on maintenance now. So, holding 178 to 180 pounds. So, I'm kind of like I know in the back of my mind, big picture thinking like, okay, I've done this like 32 times, like I was saying earlier, so it doesn't matter. But I'd say like right now, I'm more excited about the day, like, because it's Ethan's birthday on Thanksgiving. So I'm more excited about that. Like, we're going to break tradition because we're not going to do the turkey dinner. He likes spaghetti, so I'm going to whip up some homemade spaghetti like my grandma used to make. So I'm more excited about just like seeing him have fun on that day. Like, I'm more excited about the people being with my peeps than I am the food. So I think, that I've kind of trained myself to be like that lately. Like, not really making like, oh, it's Thanksgiving, I got to pound down a bunch of food just because it's Thanksgiving. It's more about, okay, I'm going to hang out with my peeps and with the loved ones. But at the same time, I don't want to eat, a whole quart of spaghetti either, and be freaking gain a bunch of weight, because I do want to keep things in check, and I do have a history of using food as a coping mechanism to stress. And I gain weight really easily, not because my body just gains weight easily, just because of the behaviors. So I'm like really trying to stay aware of that. So that's another reason why I'm like, okay, let's not like treat the holidays as a justification to deviate from what my big picture game plan is. And I want to compete and be competitive in 2018 in the spring and summer, but more importantly, I want to hold on to the way I'm looking and feeling now. That's more important to me. So I have like a little bit, I think, more important goals than just being aesthetically pleasing for a panel of judges. So that's kind of my approach to these holidays anyway. It's not that I'm going to enjoy myself, and I think probably what will end up happening is I'll get up in the morning and probably just have, some egg whites, a little bit of probably some string cheese, and maybe a slice of bread just to kind of hold me over, and then I'll have my dinner, and then maybe we are going to get a pumpkin pie because that's Ethan's thing. He loves pumpkin pie. So I'll have my piece of pumpkin pie, and I'll be good. I mean, like you, Andrea, I'll probably wake up puffy a little bit in the next morning, but you know how many refeeds I've done over the last 3 decades? I know after, I'm going to be puffy, but 2 or 3 days later, I get through the glycogen. I'm training. It gets through. as long as I get back on my game plan, everything just levels itself back out. So that's kind of where my mind is and approaches for Thanksgiving. Then Christmas might be a different story, but we'll see when we get there.
Right. You're up, Bert.
Okay. So I guess my situation is unique for a number of reasons. I'll start off with the fact that I just got off the stage like, shoot, Thursday now. Wow.
100 hours ago. Or something like that.
Yeah. And I guess it's unique this go around because I really want to, I guess, set a good example when it comes. It's so weird because I want to set a good example in regards to like I actually want to put on weight and kind of let people know that that's not necessarily a bad thing when you're coming. You're transitioning from an on season to an off season. Mm-hmm. So that's definitely on my to-do list. But at the same time, I also want to promote, not going off the rails either, right? Like I kind of want to keep things in control too. And then also, Leanna's still kind of sort of dieting, or she's trying to maintain weight for, like, that's her challenge. My girlfriend Leanna, she's trying to maintain weight for the next 3 or 4 months. Like, that's her goal. It's like for the first time ever accomplish that because she's never done that. Mm-hmm. So we kind of play off each other a lot, my habits become her habits and vice versa. Like I had like so many of those like black bean brownies this off season. I think because of that, I kept a good body comp, right? Right. So I'm also kind of like, trying to be like, a positive influence on the little team here. So what I'll probably do is train that morning. We'll have a really good training session, probably a little bit more volume in the form of something fun. We'll probably add some barbell complexes or something after our typical training. Maybe do 15, 20 minutes of cardio, something like that. And then I guess when it comes to eating the day of, I'll probably just have a lot of protein feedings. And usually protein that I tend to find very satiating, which for me is either eggs or a whey protein shake. Both of those really, really like put me out of commission when it comes to eating.
So weird.
And then I'll make sure I have a protein feeding maybe 2-ish hours before I do get to the big meal. Upon getting to the big meal, I think I will make sure that I'm hydrated. I think that's big. Sometimes if you're dehydrated, you tend to kind of mistake the emptiness for hunger when it's, you're really a nice big cup of water away from kind of controlling that. I'll probably kind of go easy on the appetizers because that's what appetizers are there for. They're kind of to get you to eat more. We probably won't have any issue eating more the day of, so I probably am not going to have, just those little things like maybe little cupcakes or some sort of Brussels sprout variation with like butter and bacon. I'll probably avoid all those things, right? Hold the tempura, that sort of stuff. And then I'll probably start with protein. I think starting with protein at the meal. First of all, it's a reminder of my goals, that like I'm here to get, as jacked as possible while staying moderately lean.
Here's a turkey leg
I'm here at Thanksgiving to get jacked.
But we worked out and we start with the protein, and I think that kind of recenters you. So we'll have protein first, and again with some water. And then after that, I'll probably have my first adult beverage, which I think it's important to not have on a completely empty stomach because then you start to make mistakes at that point and all inhibition just kind of goes out the window. So I'll probably say that until I'm done with a little bit of the turkey. And then I guess when it comes to everything else, again, we will focus on the stuff that's a novelty, that is not there all the time. And if I have the option of going after things that are probably a bit lower in fat, I'll go for those, you know.
That's
You know,
right.
because again,
Y'all
I
don't do the
train.
fats. I forget. Neither of y'all.
Yeah, and well, I think anyone who trains, you probably are going to be slightly better at partitioning carbohydrate than the average person. So you should use that to your advantage. So, for example, there's this one. It's a Mexican concoction. It's like sweet potatoes in like this like syrupy sauce, you know, which for the most part is going to be it's freaking tasty, and it's super high carb, but it's going to be lower in fat. So I'll probably, you know, try to go with those things first. But if not a total issue, I'll just try to go and make myself fat with the things that aren't there all the time, for sure. And then I guess in regards to as we're eating and actually taking it in, that it's that friendly reminder, you know, that the whole like the diminishing returns, right? That, you know, your first bite of that thing is the tastiest, best bite, and then everything afterwards is not quite as good as the bite before that. And I think if you remember that, you're less likely to go after that third slice of pumpkin pie that you're like, I have no idea why I'm eating this right now. It's just partially because I hate myself at this point, so we're just gonna just plow in.
We've
And
gone too
that for the most
far.
part, you know what? When I think about it, it's probably going to be my approach with this holiday season, but it's always kind of sort of been my approach to everything. Like when I go out and I eat with friends in the off season, I usually take a very similar approach where it's like, you know, hey, it's Friday night, you're going to go have a few drinks with the boys. You know, maybe that chocolate muffin that you have with your breakfast, maybe we can skip that today. So it's little things along the way that aren't too crazy, that just get me in a better position by the time I do get to that meal. And when I get to the meal, I make sure I have enough protein throughout the day, probably a little bit of protein beforehand, get there hydrated, start with the protein first or the vegetables, usually skip appetizers. And then no matter how tasty things are, remember the rule of the law of diminishing returns. And then I would say this one's just I think it's kind of just embedded in me as someone who's a little bit more resistant to weight gain. The day, even after my post show celebration, because we ate a good amount that evening. I was just not hungry the morning after, and I've always found it easy to do that to I guess kind of trim down calories the days afterwards, as opposed to the days before. My behavior when it comes time to get to the occasion is a little bit better, and I have found that's not just the case for myself, but for most people, it's a little bit easier once you've had your treat to kind of sort of chill out the days afterwards. So what's probably going to happen after the holidays is I'll wake up and I probably will have to make myself have protein a few times early in the day because I just will not be in the mood to eat, to be honest. I think the day after my show, unintentionally, I had under 2,000 calories just because I was still stuffed from the barbecue the night prior. So that's going to be my approach. And again, like, to be honest, it's not very different from what I do all year round. And I think sometimes I get too much credit for just being I guess like a naturally lean person. And maybe to a certain extent, I do swing that way. But I also make a conscious effort, and I do this year round. And that's why for me post show, like when people ask me, what's your approach? It's like, I'm just going to go back to like, what are my off-season habits, which to you, they might seem very disciplined. And maybe at some point they might have been for me, but they're just habits at this point, and I don't really think about it. It's just how I do things. So that's going to be my approach in regards to the holidays. And I think because I am trying to gain weight, and I think I told myself that, by Christmas, I want to be about 10 to 15 pounds heavier than I was when I was competing. I probably will allow myself a little bit more leeway, but to be honest, like the greater structure of the whole thing is going to be the same as it always is.
Yeah.
So that's me.
Yeah, I think what's good too is that we practiced, right? And when you're in the off season, we're, again, just a caveat, we're not telling anyone to get fat or to eat stupid or to, whatever, or like binge with food or beverages on the weekends. But when you go months and months without ever going to a special occasion, or you never go out to eat, or you never, if you hermit yourself, which I've done before, then when you do have that one day, it's like, oh my God, it's coming. Let's do it.
That's the next one.
Yeah.
And I, like I said, Brandon and I eat. I mean, his parents are here this weekend, so I'll probably eat out a lot more. But most of my life in the last year or two, every Saturday, Brandon and I train for as late as we want. We eat together. We hang out. We probably go to dessert every weekend. And then every other day, I almost eat the exact same shit. And it's protein feedings 4 or 5 times. I eat like 5 or 6 times a day right now. Only because I train multiple times. When I'm only training once a day, I don't do that. But like Jeff said, there's no fear. Fear is definitely a big factor, but when you do it all the freaking time, it's not a big deal. Like it doesn't feel like Thanksgiving. Doesn't feel like, oh my God, Thanksgiving. It's like, okay, I have to go home. There's going to be free food and turkey, and man, I haven't had pumpkin pie in a long time. Cool. But last weekend I had ice cream, so like it's not a big deal. It's not like the only sweet I'll ever have.
You have to get uncomfortable every now and then in order to learn and to get over all that. It's like experience cures insecurity.
Ooh, that's a
and
square.
fears. Square me.
That was a good one. That was a good one.
But it's true. I mean, it's like there's not too much in the sport of bodybuilding now that like I'm like, oh shit, where it's gonna freak me out because I've seen so much. So there's still some things every now and then will pop up because I'm always continuing to learn. But yeah, for the most part, you have to get out there and experience going out to eat. If you're fearful of going out to eat, how are you gonna ever learn to maneuver through it?
Yeah. And that doesn't mean we're saying you should go out and eat every weekend. We're just saying that, like, it's just really common that you turn into a hermit and you say, like, you lose normal human interaction in order to protect yourself from fat gain.
I was that guy on Thanksgiving bringing Tupperware to Thanksgiving dinners with my plain chicken breast, my broccoli, and brown rice.
Because you can't have turkey.
Fearful.
That's a different bird.
If I eat this food, I'm going to lose my progress.
Yeah.
That's how fearful I was.
Yeah.
What about the people that might be listening going, it's a holiday. You guys are tripping. You guys are stressing too much. We should just be able to do whatever we want and not stress on it.
I don't stress on it. That's the thing is like,
no, but people are going to say it's once a year. You should be able to do whatever hell you want and not even think about eating all this stuff.
I would have to say that those people aren't real athletes or haven't competed before or aren't experienced or just are getting into fitness. Because this just happened on our blog too. I think sometimes people who aren't bodybuilders forget that this is a show for bodybuilders. So there are some things that are a bigger deal to us. No, general health and fitness, you're right. Who gives a shit? You're right. If you just want to be healthy, you should have a few days a year where you don't care. I get that. Or where it doesn't matter. But if you're and it's just my opinion, if you're someone that's been tracking for many years, if you know what stage lean feels like, you understand what's in foods, you have big goals, like all that stuff, then it's not that the dinner matters. It's that like the nutrition that you put in your body as a lifestyle, because everybody has to eat, it matters. And that's not just bodybuilding. I mean, that's the same for this conversation would be important for a lot of sports.
Yeah. Like if I was like, I could tell you this, if I was to have that attitude right now and say, screw it, Thanksgiving, I'm just going to eat whatever the hell I want. That can set me really quick back into my old behaviors. And it would start to be cumulative. Then the next day I'd be like, fuck it, I'm just gonna have this or that. And then before you know it, I'm going down like my old habits where I was like every hour or two I'm going down the cupboard and eating 2 Oreos. That's just 2 Oreos. But the shit gets cumulative. And before you know it, you're out of your your structure, you're out of your behaviors, and yeah. So I used to think like a couple years back, I would say, yeah, okay, yeah, big deal, it's just one day. But now I'm like, no, there's a lot of merit of staying, within your structure and your goals, like you're saying.
Yeah, and like I was saying too, you can't unlearn it, right? So in my brain right now, like I really feel like I'm saying, fuck it, it's Thanksgiving, I'm gonna eat whatever I want. But I'm at a place in my life where when I say whatever I want, it still means high protein. It still means every like 4 or 5 hours. It still means if vegetables are there and I like them, they're gonna be somewhere on the plate. Like, it doesn't mean I force myself to cook spinach because I don't like it. It just means like, oh, that's a broccoli salad. Okay, throw it in there. Like I literally feel like I'm saying, fuck it, it's Thanksgiving, whatever. But I still wake up and have my same breakfast. I'll still have deli meat or whatever, and my plate doesn't, like Bert said, you don't know how to not eat protein. I'm not going to go to Thanksgiving and have a sliver of turkey and a shit ton of sides. I'm going to have a big ass piece of turkey and a few little sides that I actually enjoy. And then I'm going to have dessert because in my mind, that's like, fuck it, right? And so for me, fuck it is an extra couple hundred or maybe an extra 1,000 calories.
Yeah.
And to me, that is a fuck it. It's not a whole pizza. Yeah. It's not, to me, that is a fuck it.
That's me. That's my F it would be like, oh yeah, okay, I'm gonna have like half the pie, and I'm gonna eat like all day,
see,
like just constantly eat all day because it's triggers. And you just keep going and going and going. And then the next day you wake up and you're just like, why the hell did I do that? And you beat yourself up, you feel guilty, and then it just creates a vicious cycle.
Yeah. So I guess it depends on who says that, right? So like when I hear fuck it, that I feel like I'm doing that, but I guess I'm just in a different place. And I get to some people that might be a half a pie or a whole pizza or like whatever. But actually, there was a few weeks ago, B and I each had a hot and ready, and I was really impressed with myself. I had a hot and ready.
What's a hot and ready?
What's a hot and ready?
What? When you go to Little Caesars for $5 and you get the whole damn thing. And I almost did it. And then I didn't eat the rest of the day, and I watched, we binge watched.
Okay. Little Caesars, this is where I'm going to bring up Lawrence to-go rule, okay?
Okay, let's hear it.
This is what I learned from Lawrence. And this was after his show. I can't remember when.
If you're going to do the good stuff?
If you're gonna eat something, it needs to be a 10 out of 10. If it's not at a 10 out of 10, do not waste your calories on it. So that I actually use that. I use that strategy a lot. I'm like, if I see something like that looks good, I'll take. You know what? This doesn't taste all that great. I'm not gonna like splurge on this. I'm gonna splurge on something that's worthwhile.
See, but it still doesn't feel like a splurge. It feels like this is on Saturdays. I just don't give a shit. So I eat whatever,
But if you're gonna get a Little Caesars, go spend $5.
Yeah, but it's already ready. That was the deal, is you can pick it up on the way home. And we were starving.
Gotcha. I gotcha.
And this is mostly an adult show, right?
It is an adult show.
The thing, here's the thing with cheap pizza. This is like one of those memes that I saw. I'm like, that hits the spot. It's like cheap pizza. It's kind of like bad sex. Even when it's like bad, it's all right. It's still pretty good.
Well, considering that I maybe eat pizza like once every month or two, I thought it was delicious because I barely eat pizza. And we were on the way home. I very distinctly remember this. And we wanted to call, I think it was Domino's. Something else that actually, there's this place called Home Slice right by us that's really good, but the line's always forever. And then it was Domino's. It was like a 45-minute wait to deliver it, and I had just done my second session of the day, and it was Saturday, and I was like, I'm not waiting for this. Like, so what do you want to pick up? And he was like, I still want pizza. I'm like, well, I guess we're going to Little Caesars because that's on the way home.
There you go.
Hey,
but anyways, the whole point of it is it's my definition of fuck it when I was like hammered and 21 and I just finished drinking was to eat a whole pizza. But now it is like at Thanksgiving, I'm going to have one of all the desserts and like that, whatever. Like, I might say all, it's like 2 or 3. Like, we don't have like crazy amounts. But an extra 1,000 calories is me being like, whatever.
Well, and like to this person that would say something like that, it's like if most people saw my bodybuilding life in general, they would be like, you don't try hard enough when it comes to, especially a lot of the nutritional things and a lot of the habits. Like, peak off season, like between Leanne and I, we polish 2 to 3 bottles of wine a week together.
Yeah.
We probably eat out 3 or 4 times a day, and it's like, especially once I get over 180 pounds, like every day looks like a binge night.
Yeah. I've been there. I've seen it.
Yeah, so and not only that, but like it's like the older you get, this is just a trend that I've realized. It's like the stuff that you don't care about, you just shoo out of your life. So if you're rebelling like that hard against your bodybuilding, it's like some people would be like, "Why are you training on Thanksgiving?" And it's like,
Because
because
I
I love
like
my life
it.
and I love my training. Like there's nothing
Yeah.
about this that feels
Yeah.
forced. If it felt forced, I would just go do something else. I love eating a high protein diet. I love to train. I like to eat in a aware fashion. I think that there's nothing wrong with that. If you enjoy it, do it.
Yeah.
And for the person that feels like, they need to rebel against, I guess, this sport that is / lifestyle, it's like, homie, maybe check yourself because it might not be for you if you feel like every once in a while you have to do that.
Yeah, like I was saying, it's in. I'm sure this happens to y'all too, but where you get people being like, "Well, that's not healthy." It's like, no shit, it's a sport. Bodybuilding isn't healthy. Like, tell the guys getting concussions on NBC right now. You know what I mean with the football, like that's not good for you either. But it's what we do. And so this isn't a health and fitness thing. And there's a difference between like I'm trying to, look good for my reunion next year versus like I'm trying to get on stage. Like that's just very different.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it, like you're rebelling. But for again, like me not caring, I guess could look like on Saturdays, my having fun is like, oh, we can train for as long as we want. Okay. I don't have to get home and get to the athletes. I can just train as long as I want. Like, that's a great time. I literally, Brandon and I, mind you too, when I go out in the workout clothes immediately after training, like I haven't dressed up because we don't have time for that. We want to be at the gym and then go eat before the crowds and then be at home on the TV. Like, that's our Saturday. It's a great time. The movie theater has recliners. Like, what? We're going to go in our sweats. Like, so that's, I don't know. It's a good time to me.
Like part of my trip, I was telling you guys I'm going to Europe next year, and it's the first time that I've gone outside of England. Like part of the fun to me, it's like I want to train like in a new gym and like a new atmosphere, and like to me that's freaking exciting. And thankfully, like for my partner, it is as well. And we're gonna eat all sorts of yummy protein everywhere we go, and
It's hard to find all the fatty proteins. What are you gonna do in Europe?
Just have to eat the fatty proteins, I guess. But it's like to me, it's like I'm not going to rebel against this. Every once in a while, we'll take a week off from my training. But to be honest, yes, part of it is maybe to like enjoy the holidays and enjoy that. But it's also like it's an investment for my training. It's like, oh, when I come back, all the little things that hurt are going to feel better. So if you love this stuff, you love it, and it's you can only like shy away from it like so far. I think.
Yeah, that's a good question. Good topic spur there, Jeff.
Yeah.
See, we get all heated. You hear us? Jeez.
Yeah.
The recliner rage is coming back.
Because I've been on both sides of the fence. There was a time where I'm just like, screw it. It's just one damn day. Do whatever you want. But yeah.
Well, I bet you some of the screw it came from like burnout from going too hard.
Yeah. It was because I mean. We're talking 32 years. And I think back, I'm like, fuck, it's 32 years of this. Early on, there was like a lot of, you guys have heard my stories. It's just hardcore. It was just balls to the wall. And the pendulum swings really hard the other way. So now it's more like the last few years, I'm just really trying to find that balance between the two. Like, Thanksgiving, I'm going to enjoy some good food, but I'm not going to go ape shit like I used to.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna not eat either. So I'm gonna, make both worlds work.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've been getting really, really good at, especially as of late.
Yeah. And when you're not like you said burnt out, Bert, but like again, when you're compromised when you've been dieting, you're just not like it's easy when you're fed.
Yeah.
Like I don't eat till I'm sick now. even if I did sick, I get like there's a point where I'm like I'm just not gonna do it. But like after my last show, of course I was like almost sick. But it's just
Did we talk about if maybe we do go ape shit, and we do
Oh,
go.
that
What do we do? What do we do after
someone's
that?
gonna mess
Okay.
up. No matter what we said, someone's gonna mess up.
Rule number one is do not weigh in the next day.
Ooh,
Nobody needs
huge,
that.
huge,
Nobody
Yeah.
needs
huge.
that in their life to
Yeah.
recognize what,
No.
like, if you're
I
like,
was,
after the
Yeah,
day
go ahead.
after a show, the day after you messed up, I'm so big on that. I think that was part of me finally letting go too a couple years ago. Was like I stopped weighing in every day, and even now in the off season, I think I weigh in like maybe twice a month. But if you did some shit, you do not weigh in the next day.
Because you're probably not going to like that number.
And it's not real either, right? If you've been,
No.
especially if you've been diet, like the amount of glycogen, like that's not like you gained
Yeah.
that amount of fat.
It tells you nothing.
It's trash data. It's not good for your soul or the feels. Nobody.
No.
It's not good for your coach even, right? Because we'll see it and be like, well, we'll see in a few days what actually happened because who knows how much. Especially because a lot of people, if you've been dieting, your sodium inherently becomes lower because your diet inherently becomes cleaner because your calories are lower. So it's, not good data. So don't weigh in. That's the first thing. Then what?
What about you guys? I'm not a fan of restriction either. The day after or the days after, like hard restrictions or the throwing a bunch of cardio in to try to clean shit out. Because to me, it just triggers even more hunger because now you're deprived.
Yeah, I would go right back to the same normal.
Yeah, that's what I like. Yep.
Well, here's a kind of a
because you won't be as hungry either.
I like to use for it'll because here's the thing, like if you maybe you usually eat 2,000 calories, right? And on Thanksgiving you're like, shoot, I ate 3,000. Like I think that's still reasonable, and maybe you can cut 200 calories off the next few days. You might not even feel it the first 3 days, and that's good enough, right?
Yeah.
But one example I like to use with athletes is we'll just play the numbers game. So let's just say you do eat 2,000 calories a day. At the end of a month, that's 54,000 calories or 56,000 calories, right? If you were to eat 5,000 one day in that whole month, your average goes up to 2,100. That is it. So when you think about the big picture, like even 5,000 calories is a lot of food. Like you really messed up. I don't know why you even track that, but that's a huge goof. And even like I guess in the sea of consistency, it turns into just 100 extra calories at the end of the month. Yeah. Go turn that into a good training session and learn your lesson and move on.
That was a good way to put it.
Yeah. But it's even like if you're 1,000 over, it's unlikely like you're going to be storing a shitload of fat from that.
Oh, what is that? Nothing. It's
exactly.
Get back to it.
So I mean, time will cure all that. If you're back on your game plan, whether you're shaving a little bit of calories down or you're just right back where you were, eventually that shit's going to clean out, and you're gonna be fine.
Yeah. If 5,000 calories for that 2,000 calorie person, it's 100 extra at the end of the month, like an extra 1,000.
And the easiest ways to do that too, I don't know how y'all feel about this, like on the weekends, most of us sleep in an extra, I don't know how many hours, but like that's real easy to shave off. I don't know. Yeah, there's lots of ways to shave off here and there.
Sleep through breakfast?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'll take that over some omelets.
That's that's a good way to put it. So you screwed up, don't weigh in. It's okay to shave a little off the next few days, no big. It's really also okay to ignore it usually.
Yeah.
Or to go right back to normal. And what's funny too is if you plan tomorrow, I'm going to be normal. But a lot of times, like we said, you won't be as hungry. It might be dinner time and you eat a little less of everything and you end up eating, I don't know, less.
Yeah, it's your chronic behaviors that decide like the outcomes is not necessarily
the one.
Yeah. It's no different than that one dude that goes to the gym once and that's kind of it, doesn't do anything for you. So, yeah, if you goof, learn from it. I think that's the biggest thing. And over time, you get to the point where, like all three of us here, we're not even tripping about it. It's just almost another day, to be honest. And we look forward to it, if anything, but it wasn't always that way.
Yeah. Yeah, it used to stress me out. I used to take food everywhere, like Jeff. Or you had the protein cakes, right, Bert? The bricks of protein.
Oh, yeah, but those are disgusting. They were honestly just eating for function.
That's what I'm saying. There was a time where we all had the Tupperwares everywhere.
Yeah. I think over time, that's probably the biggest thing is you kind of learn to cut out the fluff and focus on the things that matter. And that's why we are where we're at today. And we all have at least much better command of the sport than we used to, I think, mutually say just 5 years ago. So you can do a lot in 5 years in regards to your outlook and how you approach and execute.
Yeah. So good topic. And I think if someone's dieting, we give some tangible things. But if you're, hopefully it's like a weird eye opener that if you're in the off season or you are trying to put on muscle or you say you want to get on stage one day, and if these holidays really are a very big pain point or fear point, like Jeff said, or if it stresses you out, maybe that tells you something. So that's some work to do on that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
All right. Anything else? Did we miss anything?
I want to go eat pumpkin pie now. That's where I'm at.
What do you think, Jeff?
Up like 8 times.
What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah, I'm good. I think I'm with Berto.
All right. Well, happy holidays, friends that are listening. And we hope it helped. See y'all soon.
Hey, everybody. It's Eric Helms. Thanks for tuning into our podcast. As you know, at 3DMJ, we promote evidence-based approaches to the lifting community. If that's something you want to dive deeper into, I'd encourage you to check out my research review, Monthly Applications in Strength Sport, or for short, MASS. This is a review that myself, Dr. Mike Zerdos, and Greg Knuckles put out every month. We cover the latest research publications that are applicable to strength and physique athletes, or anyone who's looking to get stronger or improve their body comp. Our content is in both written and video format. For more information on how to subscribe, check out 3dmusclejourney.com/mass. That's 3dmusclejourney.com/MASS for further details. Thanks for tuning in.